First story. Confessions of a Serial Abuser Cheater. First off, I want to apologize to anyone who has experienced something similar to my story. Nobody ever deserves to experience abuse or cheating. There may be some triggers to your own personal experiences, and I'm sorry for all of you who had to endure being betrayed or abused. My wife 35 and I 39 have been married for 6 years. We have 2 amazing children together, both boys, ages 3 and 5. I met my current wife when I was at the tail end of divorce from my first marriage. When we met, it was magic. Amazing. We were both swimming into the depths of each other, but it was all based on a facade and lies I was feeding her. Simply put, I was a narcissist and I deceived her into being with me. Unsurprisingly, the problems began almost immediately. We got into an argument one night and she wanted to break up and leave. This triggered fears of abandonment and the interaction turned into a physical altercation. I pinned her on the ground to try to force her to calm down and stay. Somehow we worked through this and got married quickly after. Things were looking up, and we soon found out she was pregnant, but things were never really great between us. We both thought we loved each other deeply, and each of us believed that we were meant for each other. She loved me with all she had within her. And then I had to go on a work trip to Austria. I used this work trip as an opportunity to explore cheating on her. I was swiping on Tinder on the plane ride to Austria. I quickly found a match who was attractive enough, and who gave me the attention and admiration I felt I was missing in our marriage. I slept with her. I told her lies, denied having a family, said anything I could to deceive this girl so far she would give me what I needed. My wife found out about the affair the night I got home. She was devastated. I destroyed her. She made the decision to reconcile because she really did love me wholeheartedly. Things were hard. I was more focused on what I wasn't getting than helping her recover and heal. I became frustrated that things weren't getting better fast enough. And I was once again focused on what I wasn't getting and what was missing. We found out that she was pregnant with our second son during COVID, and things still weren't whole between us. I was still focused solely on myself, my needs, and what she wasn't giving me and where she was failing in our marriage. So once again, I hopped on Tinder and found someone who would fill that void. Someone who didn't know who I really was, and blindly believed the lies I'd tell and would feed me the admiration and attention I sought. We slept together a few times, and she told me she was pregnant. I told her I'd pay for her abortion but didn't follow through. I blocked her out of my life, believing I got away with it without consequence. My wife went through my phone and found a picture of her, reached out to her and discovered the truth. Once again, she moved out. I told her I was committed to change. But being honest, I was just willing to do anything to get her back to feeding me the attention and affection I needed to feel okay about myself. We found ourselves with a fresh start, a new beginning, a new job offer out of state where we could build a new life. But I was still selfish. We would argue constantly, with it always being about me not getting what I wanted or needed from the relationship, that she didn't admire me or worship the ground I walked on. I tried to once again talk to her and make her understand that she wasn't doing enough to feed my ego, and she told me to just go sleep with other people. Something in me just snapped and I decided to do just that, all under the guise that it's not what I wanted and I wouldn't do that. So I hopped on Tinder again to find someone to feed my constant and unending need for admiration and attention. I lied to her as well. I did whatever I thought was necessary to secure the validation and admiration that was missing in my life. This last affair lasted a year in total. Somewhere in the middle, I approached my wife and told her that I constantly feel alone in our relationship and she wasn't giving me what I needed. She just told me I treated her like crap constantly and that it's really hard to want to be affectionate when someone treats you like garbage constantly. This turned into a full-blown argument. Once again, fears of abandonment arose, but this time in both of us. We both broke things. We both yelled. The police came. I was arrested for domestic violence, but surprisingly she was also arrested for felony failure to pay child support for her son from a previous relationship. Why did she have such high arrears, you might ask? Because I was controlling, and I convinced her that her not working was in the best interest of our family, and she listened. She was in jail for a month for this. I was home taking care of our boys, convinced that she was the problem in our relationship. Jail has a funny way of making people reflect, all the while feeling hopeless. I was ruthless when she was in jail, constantly telling her she deserved to be there, telling her we are getting a divorce and she's homeless. Anything I could say to break her and make her feel horrible. She made promises that she understood how she treated me was wrong, and I deserved to be treated better. She got out of jail. I let her come home. I broke things off with the girl I was having an affair with, and I told myself I'm going to watch and see what she does to give me the validation I so desperately needed. Things didn't get better, so I ran back to my secret girlfriend. I was still self-centered, and all of my effort was focused on taking care of myself and making sure my own needs were being met. It didn't matter who I hurt or what I needed to do. I had to feed my wants and desires, at the cost of everything and everyone. I began drinking every night, isolating myself from my family due to the guilt, loneliness, isolation I felt in my life. I tried to fill this hole with purchases, with weed, with alcohol, with reckless behavior. Nothing made me feel better. One night, my wife saw a text come through from this girl while I was sleeping. She woke me up, and immediately I snatched my phone and denied it. The next day I focused all of my energy on gaslighting her into believing that she was just a friend and she was overreacting. I went to work, but had a gnawing feeling that she was going to take my children and run, abandoning me. I went home from work early on 6/28 and we immediately began arguing. My wife told me she was done. She was going to take the spare bedroom and we just need to co-parent and take the high road for the boys. I was unwilling to accept this fate, so I began using scare tactics and controlling behavior to try to get her back to feeding my own selfish needs. She wouldn't do it. So I grabbed her phone, car keys, and laptop and wouldn't give them back. Unbeknownst to me, she had someone call the police. Good for her. I was once again arrested, this time for false imprisonment and preventing an emergency call. I was taken to jail, but I made sure I hid her car keys before I was taken so she couldn't take off with my kids. She had to take our RV to a friend's house and slept overnight in a friend's driveway with our kids. There was a no-contact order put in place, but I immediately broke it when I got out of jail. I finally felt bad about what I was doing to her and our boys. So I made sure she got her car keys back, got back into our house. I then made sure she had money to provide for our boys. I was still denying the gravity of this affair, and harassing her and trying to guilt trip her into working things out. She wasn't having it this time. She reported me to the police and put a protective order in place. I told my ex-wife everything, and told her to tell my wife what I had done. We didn't talk for a week. One night I was FaceTiming the boys and I asked her to talk. She agreed, said she just wants out, that she's done, that she won't do this to herself or our kids anymore. I told her she's right, that I'm ashamed of the person I am and what I've done to hurt her and our family, that I just want to make sure she's okay so I'll pay all of the household bills and for her to just focus on being okay. I offered to come around the house and help more, that I wanted to spend time with our kids. I did that for 2 weeks. Every day I was giving 100% of what I have within me to help around the house and make sure her and the boys were okay. We had to go to court, and surprisingly she said she wanted to drop the charges. She said she doesn't want to get me in trouble and affect my future career prospects, but she just wants to get a divorce. We were getting along good enough to co-parent, and my efforts were still wholeheartedly focused on taking care of her and the boys. I quit drinking. I quit vaping weed. I started individual counseling to address the deep-rooted internal issues that are inside me. I promised myself that no matter what happens, I refuse to hurt her or lie to her or anyone else ever again. That I'd never do anything to control her or anyone else ever again. And that I'd stay single until I knew with absolute certainty that I'd never use or hurt anyone ever again. I hate the person I am. I'm ashamed of myself and how I treated her when she loved me with everything she had within her. I won't forgive myself for what I've done, and all of my actions are focused on atoning. I'm selling all of the stuff I loved so much to pay off her child support. I'm focused on fixing my internal issues. I'm focused on being a better dad. I'm focused on doing whatever she needs to heal and rebuild her life. I put my own wants and needs last. Somehow she found it within her to invite me come back home to co-parent. We are like roommates now. She has our old room to herself, and I bunk in the boys' room. I still do everything I can every day to help her around the house, to look out for her, to prioritize her and her healing. She says we are still absolutely getting a divorce, but we have friendly conversations. Sometimes we spend time together alone. There is no touching or intimacy. We rarely discuss the elephant in the room, and when we do, she gets extremely uncomfortable. Every action I take, every word I say, every thought I have, and every plan I make is to ensure her and the boys are okay and will have a better future, regardless of whether we stay married or not. I've been proactive in rebuilding trust. I've shared all of my logins for all apps and accounts I have. The same accounts I used to lie, cheat, and control her. I've given up all control. I want to have a relationship with her. I want to keep my family together. I want to fix my own issues and to have something new and healthy. I don't know if that will happen, but no matter what, I'm never going to try to control her, hurt her, or cheat on her ever again. I just want to be a better person. Once again, I hate myself for what I've done to her. I will never forgive myself. And everything I do now is focused on making sure she's okay. Second story. After wayward wife cheated, now return of the dead bedroom. My WW, 42F, and I, 42M, have been in a dead bedroom situation since about 2019. We've been together 20 years and our physical intimacy was at all-time lows through this period. Rarely kissed, and we were having sex about once a year. I'm very interested, she's totally not. I often raised the issue and she would say it was a variety of issues. She didn't find herself attractive. Her hormones had changed after kids. She was dealing with chronic pain, and her meds were dampening her libido. Unknown to me, she was involved in a long-term online-only EA through several of these years. In the days after D-Day, March 2024, I demanded access to her accounts and I saw all of the conversations. One of the things that really hit me in the gut was how sexually charged she was in the EA. They would regularly sext, they would send pictures, they would jump on video calls while I was at work to masturbate together. Following D-Day, we separated for a month. When we reconciled, we went through the hysterical bonding phase and intimacy was through the roof for us, having sex 2-3 times a week. Since then, things are dropping off and I can sense old patterns taking hold again. I'm having a real hard time with this. How could she be so on in the EA and so off with me? It immediately stirs up a bunch of insecurities. Is she just not attracted to me? Is she back in secret communication with AP? Some other bits of info I'm struggling to put into coherently ordered paragraphs. We never sexting. I've tried to initiate it throughout the past, but she says it feels weird and unnatural. We're never really apart for more than a workday. So she feels like we're going to see each other in a couple hours. Why are we doing this over messages? It's very possible I just suck at it and it's not getting her going. RMC believes that my WW feels some obligation to be wholesome with me, like she has to be the perfect wife. She doesn't feel comfortable letting out her sexual side with me. We're trying to explore this topic in our sessions, but haven't made much progress yet with everything else going on. RMC also believes that my WW prefers having her sexual relationships at an arm's length. Prior to the two of us dating and marrying, she was involved in several long-distance relationships with men in other countries. The EA takes her back to those days and she uses it as a coping mechanism. And there's something about being able to just put the phone down when she's had her fill. My WW calls it having a pocket boyfriend that she can just turn off. My WW has recently told me that she finds sex painful at times, and on top of everything else, that leads to her avoiding it. And I get that. If it was potentially painful for me, I'd probably avoid it too. I've offered up that we don't have to go that far. I would so love to just share a deep kiss session. She feels like any physical affection obligates her into going further, though, so she just ends up avoiding all of it. She says that all the sexy behavior in the EA was fake, that she used it as a lure to keep the AP's attention. It was fun to fantasize with AP, but she didn't actually want any sex from him. Her IC and RMC both believe this to be true, but I have a hard time accepting it. But really, I'm so hungry for affection and intimacy that I've told her I want that attention from her, even if it is fake. Maybe that's not healthy, but here I am. She says she doesn't want to be fake with me, and yeah, frustration setting in as I type this. Everything else about R has been as perfect as it can be. She's fully owned up to it, does everything else I need. This isn't our first due day, so I can definitely say things are much better this go around. She finally gets that I need brutal and complete honesty to heal. It's just this fall off in intimacy that is really throwing me off the rails right now. Have you had similar problems with intimacy in R after the hysterical bonding phase? Third story. Found out this weekend that my long-distance BF. However, I am currently living in his college town with some of his friends for the summer, has had a GF for the last month. She's not known as a great person at their school and everyone I had talked to about her did not have good things to say. One of his friend's girlfriends saw her post a video of the two of them on her story and sent it to me, so I confronted him. However, he didn't have his phone for 2 days, unrelated reasons that I won't mention. So in the time I began to talk to some of his other friend group, turns out, they were told we broke up several months ago and that I was manipulative, gaslighting, and obsessive after the breakup that didn't happen. We also learned that he had lied about having dated some of the people in the friend group and several other things. At this point, his friends and I had made a group chat to discuss everything. I also met up with a girl. However, I guess when him and her talked the next day, she lied about what happened. Not really sure. When one of them texted him to confront him about the lying, he denied it, but immediately came back and backtracked on his story as soon as he opened my texts calling him out with screenshots. I got sent a very long text that made him seem like the victim in the situation. Yet when he texted his friends he accepted fault and continued trying to backtrack. It's just been a very weird 4 days, and I'm so incredibly confused about every aspect of the last 7 months of our relationship, and how much of it was a lie. I'm very lucky though that everyone took my side. However, when he comes back to school, his two main groups of people know and don't really like him over it, so he has the new girl on his side over it, and I feel a bit bad about that. However, it's just the consequences of his actions, I guess. Fourth story. 32M cheated on. Me and my wife have been together for 13 years. We were very young when we met. We had a daughter when we were 17. We struggled but we made it. We blossomed. She is the love of my life. Imagining a life without her is unbearable. She cheated on me about a month and a half ago. She was telling me she was unhappy, telling me I wasn't affectionate, and I take that blame. I wouldn't listen to her. I truly did start to take her for granted. So she found a guy she worked with. She became really close. They had a lot in common, and she told me that he was giving her what she wanted from me. She said it was a moment of weakness and she had sex with him. She said at that point she didn't care. I feel like she was truly genuine with her apology. With some time, 2 days, she communicated about the whole thing, answered all of my questions. You could tell that it was taking its toll on her, and I was very angry at the time. So it was rough, but she seemed transparent and honest. Told me how she felt so bad, in great detail, how she fucked up and is just waiting for me to tell her to leave. Since then, we decided to work things out. I've been doing horribly. Substance abuse, suicidal thoughts and threatening. Very manic behavior. I took a toll on her, but the pain that I'm in is like no other. I told my family, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I really needed support at the time. And she has even talked to all my family members about it, apologizing about everything. It was really shameful feeling, but it was awesome because it was nice to see her trying. IDK, but it makes me feel like she really wants me back. I've never felt this way, to be so betrayed by someone you trusted with everything. We took a night apart. I stayed over at my mom's and it felt good. I'm starting to manage my feelings a bit better, but the paranoia is unreal. I'm thinking everything. I'm thinking she's sleeping with my coworkers, friends, everybody. I just need some help navigating through this web of paranoia. Any advice would be helpful. Thank you. Fifth story. Wife cheated and I'm somehow not that angry. We are married 6 years, together for 8. We've gotten each other through so much. I had a depressive period and so did she. We stuck through each other during job woes and being broke as fuck, misunderstandings, fights, and 2024 has been one of the best years of our marriage ever. Recently she's been building more of a social life, which I was very happy about. As much as we are each other's best support, we were definitely getting too joined at the hip and isolated from everyone else during the last 4 years. I got some hobbies and clubs and it's taken a while for her to catch up on that, and there had been a little tension regarding. It all happened very fast. She joined a little dancing club at the start of the year, and I kept putting off trying it myself. Soon she was almost obsessed with it. She gets little obsessions very easily, at least this one is cheap. Fast forward to the 5th class, she gets home late, comes in and literally throws herself down and begs me to forgive her before I even knew what had happened. So for 10 days I put up a cold act. She's sad as fuck and stays in the house staring at the wall, and we have many long conversations where I tortured her a little by making her walk me through the process. She can't really think of much of an excuse other than sheer horniness, though I really didn't think there was a problem with our sex life. She said there isn't, or with our relationship in general, and it was literally just her being stupid. Then finally after 10 days I can't hold out anymore. We have amazing sex. I tell her I forgive her and just want everything back to how it was. And she's been perfect ever since. Doing literally anything I ask. It's kind of funny almost. Part of me knows that allowing something like this can only end badly. That what is happening is hysterical bonding, and that weak men just end up disrespected. But for some reason I just am not that mad and wasn't really when it happened either. Do I not love her? Am I not passionate? Do I not respect myself? I don't know. Maybe someone needs to knock some sense into me.